Happy Friday and welcome to Nasdaq Trade Talks. I'm Joe Malandrino, global markets reporter at Nasdaq. Joining me at the market site in Times Square, New York City, we have Chris Dearborn. He's the managing director on Nasdaq's market intelligence desk with our midday update. Now, Chris, it certainly has been a pretty busy January. Who thought we would have started the year the way that we did? But alas, here we are. Markets really kind of taking it on the chin today.
Trading volumes have been great to start January, although because of this coronavirus epic, you've had a downward spin to the volumes across the board. We're trailing a little bit from last January. Remember, last January, the markets were on a fire following the December Christmas sell-off in December 2018. Coming forward, averaged about 7.8 billion shares. We're averaging about 7.6 billion shares, well above. That's telling you there's some conviction here in these moves, or at least some churn. However, the major indexes are still holding up pretty good, right? It's not really a crazed sell-off like you saw in Christmas of 2018. What you're seeing here is chop back and forth. Look at this week alone, right? Even though we're ending on a down moment here today, the major indexes are relatively, the S&P is flat, the Dow is down about 0.6%, but the Nasdaq and the Nasdaq 100 are all up for the month. So it's a mixed bag. The Russell's also down a little bit. It's a mixed bag. What you're seeing here is churn and chop, and then on top of that, you've got earnings. Earnings have been a bright spot for a lot of companies, a low point for some other ones. So again, you're getting alpha captured into that. Amazon, Microsoft, all making all-time highs. You got 4 companies now listed on Nasdaq with a market cap of over $1 trillion. Google is the 4th of that company, of that pairing, and they have earnings out next week. Maybe they can even move higher than that. So a lot to look forward to. Again, the entire backdrop, though, here is that fear of the coronavirus and how it will spread and how it will be contained. And we'll get more of that over the next probably 2 months or so of how that actually gets put back into the market.
But outside of the coronavirus, fundamentally, nothing has changed from 2 weeks ago before this came out until where we are right now. But I want to pull up our chart here. This is a SOX Index, a semiconductor index. Clearly, these companies have the exposure to China. And clearly, we're seeing it in terms of how they're trading today.
Absolutely. So the SOX indicator is a leading index, especially if you're looking at the Nasdaq 100 composite. It's all the big heavyweights, Intel, and all the other ones that have exposure there, but also significant business here, not only in the U.S., but globally. And what you're looking here, this index has led. And it's led not only across for the S&P with the S&P 500 Infotech Center, which is Infotech Index, which is the GIX1 code. But what you're looking at here is that leadership starting to falter. And we're getting a retest here of this 50-day moving average. That's a near-term moving average rolling, and at 1815, we're starting to see some leakage. So you can see where we're pointed out here on the far right-hand side. We're actually trading a little bit below that right now. Can this index hold up here and start to regain? We'll see. If you look at the chart, it's tested this moving average multiple times, basing out, consolidating before breaking out higher. Is this another consolidation move based on a macro fear item? Nothing really tangible yet. And again, is this really going to be, this virus going to be a 1 or 2 quarter item? Or does it grow into something more? That's where the fear factor comes in. Investors don't like the unknown.
Right, of course. And look at Lam Research, one of the components of the SOX Index, had a great quarter. Just, I believe, is it Tuesday or Wednesday this week? Let's turn to the trading week ahead. Speaking of earnings, we have Alphabet out next week, in addition to 22 other Nasdaq 100 constituents, so 20% of that index. And then there's a number of other. It should probably be just as heavy as it was.
It's 100 S&P names coming out next week. Great names: Disney, Cummins, Ford, Fox, News A. And then you get some consumer names: Kellogg's, Ralph Lauren, Cisco, the food company, right? And then you got the med tech names: Bristol Myers, Merck. And then you got a good look at what is actually going on in China. You got Baidu and Wynn Resorts, with exposure to Macau. So that's going to be interesting calls. If you see what the news cycle's doing lately, a lot of the conversation has been based around the coronavirus. Here are some companies that with direct exposure in there, telling you their thoughts and how it's impacting the company for what they're doing right now, what their future prospects are going to be, and what they think of what could happen there. So some good stuff there that should set the tone for next week. But then on Friday, we have non-farm payroll.
Right, so it's another big one too. And we've already seen what's happened to Wynn and the other travel and leisure stocks, that they've certainly gotten hit. And I think, another reason too that it's been spooked, and we sort of saw this in midday action, you have 3 major airlines that are not, within the next week, if United, American, and Delta are not flying back and forth to China. A lot of commerce is going to be impacted, and I think that's really what's weighing on.
That's the fear factor. That's absolutely the fear factor. I mean, they shut down for the holiday over in China. That impacted all the travel companies, from the hotels, airlines, food, consumer names. And what is that going to mean for the next Q2? Again, it's only a blip. if it gets contained and moves forward, it's just a bad quarter. It's going to impact China.
Well, it'll be great for
absolutely.
next year if you look at next year's comps. If you want to look at the silver lining there.
Yes, it absolutely is.
All right, Chris, as always, thanks for joining us at MarketSite, and thank you for joining me on Trade Talks. I'm Jill Malandrino, Global Markets Reporter at Nasdaq.